In the depths of the Cavern of Whispers, where shadows danced like restless spirits, Lyra knelt amidst the silence. Her eyes, like polished onyx, absorbed the faint luminescence emanating from the mist-shrouded walls. The air was heavy with the scent of wet earth and decay, a morbid perfume that clung to her skin like a shroud. Before her, the oracle's pool reflected the dim light, its surface smooth as a sheet of black glass. Lyra's fingers, adorned with tiny, intricate scars, hovered above the water's edge, as if hesitant to disturb the pool's tranquility. The whispers of the cavern, a constant susurrus, grew louder, urging her to take the next step. In the stillness, Lyra's thoughts swirled like the whirlpools that occasionally disturbed the pool's surface. The weight of her mission, shouldered upon her slender frame, threatened to consume her. The burden of maintaining balance in a world careening toward chaos was a crushing responsibility, one she had shouldered since the day of her awakening. And yet, she dared not falter, for the fabric of existence relied on her delicate dance upon the tightrope of fate. With a measured breath, Lyra's fingers dipped into the pool, causing ripples to spread like dark, concentric circles. The whispers intensified, a chorus of ancient voices pleading to be heard. In the heart of the cavern, the air seemed to vibrate, anticipating the revelation that Lyra sought. As the ripples stilled, an image coalesced on the pool's surface, a shimmering mirage that seemed to draw Lyra's gaze into its depths. The oracle's whispers assumed a new urgency, the words becoming audible, if only just in Lyra's mind. Secrets, long buried beneath the weight of forgotten centuries, began to unfurl like a lotus blooming in the darkness. The vision that unfolded before her was one of contrasts. Lush forests, vibrant with life, stood in stark juxtaposition to withered landscapes, barren and gray as the skin of the dead. Rivers, once crystal clear, now flowed with a noxious, tar-like substance that seemed to corrode the very banks that contained it. Skies, once a brilliant blue, had dulled to a sickly yellow, as if the sun itself was diseased. Lyra's focus sharpened, her thoughts racing to comprehend the scope of the imbalance that threatened to consume the world. The oracle's whispers grew insistent, warning of an ancient, forgotten power stirring in the depths of the earth. A power that, if left unchecked, would unravel the delicate harmony of the cosmos. As the vision faded, Lyra's hand recoiled, her fingers closing around something small and smooth that had been hidden beneath the pool's surface. A tiny, polished stone, its surface etched with symbols that shimmered like the stars on a clear night, now rested in her palm. The oracle's whispers receded, replaced by an unsettling silence that seemed to pulse with anticipation. The stone, a focal point for the oracle's power, seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy, as if the very essence of the earth had been distilled into its compact form. Lyra's thoughts raced to comprehend the implications of the vision, her mind weaving a tapestry of connections between the ancient power, the deteriorating balance, and the mysterious stone. As she rose to her feet, the silence in the cavern was broken by the soft rustle of her cloak, a sound that echoed through the stillness like a sigh. The mist-shrouded walls, once a neutral backdrop, now seemed to close in around her, as if the very walls of reality were converging to converge upon the threshold of a new era. With the stone secure in her palm, Lyra turned to face the darkness beyond the pool, her eyes burning with an inner fire. The weight of her mission, shouldered for so long, now seemed to be crystallizing into a singular purpose: to prevent the catastrophic imbalance from reaching its zenith. As she stepped forward, the shadows before her seemed to coalesce into a figure, its presence announced by the faint scent of smoke and ash. The air vibrated with an almost palpable tension, as if the very fabric of reality was bracing for a cataclysmic event. "Araxes," Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of her heart. The figure, shrouded in darkness, inclined its head in a silent greeting. The silence that followed was heavy with portent, a moment of stillness before the maelstrom that would soon engulf the world. "Araxes," Lyra repeated, her voice firming as she beheld the figure before her. "The chronicles foretold of your return, though I had hoped the prophecies were mistaken. Her gaze narrowed, her eyes probing the shadows that shrouded her companion's features. What sorcery have you woven to entangle the balance? Araxes' response was a low, mirthless chuckle, the sound rippling through the cavern like the tremors that preceded an earthquake. Sorcery, Lyra? The figure's voice was a low, husky purr, a verbal caress that belied the malevolent intent behind the words. I have merely hastened the inevitable. The world was always destined for chaos. I have merely accelerated the process. Lyra's fingers tightened around the oracle stone, the symbol-etched surface seeming to warm to her touch. You would unravel the fabric of existence for your own amusement? Her voice was laced with a mixture of sorrow and anger, the weight of her responsibility as a guardian of balance settling heavier upon her shoulders. Araxes' response was a mocking smile, the shadows around its face seeming to deepen and twist into a grotesque parody of a grin. Amusement. The figure's tone was a whispered conspiracy, a confidence shared between old friends turned bitter enemies.
No, Laire.
This is about freedom, the freedom from the stifling constraints of balance and harmony. Think of it. A world in chaos, where the strong may rise and the weak shall be devoured. The cavern's darkness seemed to deepen, as if the shadows themselves were drawn to the promise of anarchy. Lyra's heart sank, the burden of her duty as a guardian growing heavier still. The time for debate was at an end. The time for action had begun. With the oracle stone pulsing in her hand, Lyra steeled herself for the trials ahead, her determination forged in the crucible of her unyielding commitment to balance. As Lyra's resolve solidified, the air in the cavern began to vibrate with an almost palpable energy, as if the very fabric of reality was responding to the challenge laid before her. The whispers of the oracle, once a gentle susurrus, swelled to a crescendo, the ancient voices urging Lyra forward. With a quiet determination, Lyra advanced upon Araxes, the symbol-etched stone held forth like a talisman against the darkness. The shadows that shrouded Araxes' face seemed to recoil, as if the very presence of the oracle's power was anathema to the chaos that lurked within. You would seek to unbalance the cosmos? Lyra's voice was a low, measured cadence, each word a deliberate blow struck against the forces of disorder. I will not permit it, Araxes. The harmony of existence will not be shattered by your whims. Araxes' response was a chilling laughter, the sound echoing through the cavern like the crackling of flames. You are no match for me, Lyra, the figure taunted, its voice dripping with contempt. Your pitiful attempts to maintain balance will be crushed beneath the heel of my will. As the two former allies clashed, the cavern itself began to shudder, the walls trembling as if the ancient stones were awakening from their slumber. The air was heavy with anticipation, the oracle's whispers now a deafening chant that seemed to urge Lyra onward. With a swift, economical motion, Lyra raised her hand, the oracle stone pulsating with an intense, crystalline light. In response, Araxes summoned a vortex of swirling shadows, the darkness coalescing into tendrils that snaked toward Lyra like living serpents. As the shadows converged, Lyra stood firm, the oracle stone aglow with an intense, platinum light. The symbol-etched surface seemed to shimmer, as if the ancient power of the oracle was awakening, drawn forth by Lyra's unyielding determination. The shadows, sensing the presence of the oracle's power, recoiled, their dark, sinuous forms halting mere inches from Lyra's outstretched hand. For an instant, the two forces, light and darkness, hung in precarious balance, the outcome of their conflict hanging precariously in the balance. Then, with a burst of radiance, the oracle's stone erupted into a blinding, crystalline light, casting the cavern in an otherworldly glow. The shadows, overwhelmed by the intensity of the oracle's power, dissipated, banished back into the depths of the abyss from whence they came. As the light faded, Lyra stood victorious, the oracle's stone still aglow in her hand. Before her, Araxes stood, its form wavering, its presence now tenuous, as if the figure's very essence was unraveling. You should not have underestimated me, Araxes, Lyra said, her voice firm, her words laced with a hint of sorrow. The balance of the cosmos will not be easily swayed. Araxes' response was a faint, whispered snarl, a sound that seemed to emanate from the very shadows themselves. "This is far from over, Lyra." The figure hissed, its presence beginning to dissolve, like mist in the morning sun. "The chaos I have unleashed will not be contained. You will soon see." As Lyra watched, Araxes' form dissipated, leaving behind only the echoes of its malevolent presence. The cavern, once a focus of darkness, began to brighten, the oracle's whispers fading into a gentle, soothing melody. The balance of the cosmos, though shaken, still held, its delicate harmony preserved by Lyra's unwavering dedication.